Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. So we have started a new series on William Carothers and Coldamay. So first we are taking part chapter number 1, that is on formation of carbon-carbon single bond, and it is part 1. And in this part I have divided the part 1 in these 5 categories. First we will see how we can do alkylation of enolates and enamines. Then what are the important substrates for alkylation. Then what are the problems related with direct alkylation, why we do not able to do direct alkylation, and how we can form different enolates from unsymmetrical ketones. And then the very important part is how to form a specific enolate, or you can say that how we can do specific alkylation at particular carbon. So this part is very important, last one. But first we have to build up our concept that we all know what is enolate, but I want to tell you here in brief that suppose if you have a carbon adjacent to a carbonyl group, right? So the carbon is called as alpha carbon and hydrogen attached on it is alpha hydrogen. This hydrogen is acidic in nature, means when you remove it you will generate a negative charge on this carbon, and this negative charge can be stabilized by this carbonyl group, right? This is your enolate. And these type of hydrogens which are adjacent to a stabilizing groups are called as acidic hydrogens. We can have different type of groups, and out of these the activation order of different functional group. But out of all these, the most important group, the most important activator group is carbonyl group, and our most of the reaction are based on this carbonyl group, right? Then if we are generating the enolate, then we can do its alkylation. We can do alkylation of enolate. How? When this negative charge will come back, the negative charge will be on this carbon, and now we can do its alkylation using some alkyl halides, or we can use alkyl sulfonates. So this R group, which is our alkyl group, will attach to this carbon, right? So we can have alkyl groups like 1,2 degree alkyl halides, or we can have allylic halides, we can have aryl halides. So we will see how we can do the reactions using different halides or sulfonates. So first we have 1 or 2 degree alkyl halides. These substrates are good. We cannot use easily 3 degree alkyl halides because of their hindered structure. We cannot easily use it, right? How we can use it and how we can do alkylation of tertiary alkyl halide, we will see it little bit later. So first we have here a secondary alkyl sulfonate, and we are using a base here. So whenever you have a base here, this base will first try to remove acidic hydrogen. So we have this malonate ester here. You can write down its structure like this. So the hydrogen present on this carbon is highly acidic because it is in between two ester groups. It has possibility of larger delocalization. It provides it more stability. So we can easily remove it, and when we will remove it, we will get negative charge here. So this enolate will attack on this carbon, and when it will attack, this leaving group will be removed, and this is a type of SN2 reaction. Next is allylic halide. So allylic halide, we have here again this diethyl malonate. So we will again generate the same type of enolate here, and this enolate can attack in two ways. This enolate can attack on this carbon and Cl will be removed, or it can attack on this carbon and this bond will shift and Cl will be removed, right? So we have seen in the summary of Claydon book that this type of reaction can follow, this type of allylic compound can follow two mechanisms, SN2 mechanism, or they can follow SN2 prime mechanism, right? So there is no strict rule to find out that which mechanism will be followed, but it is decided on the basis of structure of your allylic halide. We have discussed there that it is decided on the basis of structure of your allylic halide. So first we will see what is SN2. When this nucleophile attacks on this carbon, Cl will be removed. This is simple SN2 mechanism. And when it attacks on this allylic carbon, this bond will shift here and Cl will be removed. Then it is called as SN2 prime mechanism. And we know that nucleophile always approach to the less hindered carbon. Whatever the mechanism will be followed, we will not bother about that. We will simply see that the nucleophile should approach on less hindered carbon, and we know that this carbon is less hindered as compared to this one. This is secondary carbon, so it is more hindered. So nucleophile will attack on this carbon, and in this case SN2 prime mechanism will give you major product. So you will get two type of product here, and this should be our major product. Then we will see how we can use aryl halides. So in case of enolates or enamines, they all are nucleophiles, right? And we know that aryl halides or all the aromatic compounds are easily show electrophilic substitution reaction. They are not good for nucleophilic substitution reaction. But a aromatic compound can show nucleophilic substitution reaction when we have electron withdrawing group present at ortho or para position to the leaving group. We have already discussed this point in Claydon book that you should have a electron withdrawing group attached at ortho or para position. So in this case again we have the same nucleophile, right? This nucleophile will attack on this carbon. This bond will shift and this bond will shift here, and if you write down this NO2 like this, so after shifting of this bond will shift on oxygen. So what you will get here, you will get this intermediate, and when this charge will come back to its position, this leaving group Cl will be removed. So you will get your enolate attached at this position, or whatever nucleophile you are using will attach here. So this reaction at para position is more favorable, and if you have only electron withdrawing group attached at ortho position, then this reaction is also feasible. But what about the aromatic compounds like this? We do not have any electron withdrawing group attached at ortho and para position, but here we are using a strong base NaNH2 and ammonia, so it will provide me NH2 minus, right? So this NH2 minus will remove a proton from this position, and this bond will shift here, Br will be removed. So it involves formation of benzene, right? Then we can use our nucleophile. It will attack on this, it will shift here, we have negative charge here, so it will take a proton from ammonia and H will attach here, right? So you can do reaction of, you can use aryl halide as a substrate under these two conditions, right? Then we will take what are the problems associated with direct alkylation. So first we will see how we can do direct alkylation, then we will talk about this topic. So again we have a ester group here, so we can remove a proton from this position, it will form a enolate, right? In next step I am using a alkyl halide, so this charge will come back and R will attach here, right? So what is the possibility that we have excess of LDA here? This base can easily remove one more proton from this carbon. So instead of monoalkylation, we can have dialkylation here, right? So this is not good for our industrial purposes. So how we can avoid such type of situation? We can use manganese chloride and manganese bromide for this. So these manganese halides will form manganese enolates, and these enolates are stable in nature as compared to lithium enolates. They will form stable manganese enolates, and they will give you good yield of monoalkylation product. It will give you this manganese enolate, and they are good for monoalkylation. But this is not the only way how we can do alkylation, because in this case our ketone is symmetrical in nature, so we can use such type of enolates. But most of the time our enolates are not, our ketones are not symmetrical in nature. So what about unsymmetrical ketones? Unsymmetrical means suppose you have this type of ketone, So how do you know that, how you will know that you will get proton removed from this carbon or you will get proton removed from this carbon? So we can have two different type of products in case of unsymmetrical ketones, but if we are using different conditions, different reagents, if we are using suitable conditions, suitable reagents, then we can have a particular type of enolate, and from that particular, or you can say specific enolate, you can get specific alkylation. So for unsymmetrical ketones, we can have thermodynamic enolate or we can have kinetic enolate. Thermodynamic enolate, which is at more substituted carbon, means from, suppose you are using the same symmetrical ketone, then if you get this type of enolate, this is your thermodynamic enolate. And when you will get from less substituted carbon, then it will be your kinetic enolate, right? So thermodynamic enolates are formed under high temperature conditions or even at room temperature conditions, and kinetic enolates are formed under low temperature conditions, right? Second thing is, if you are using protic solvents like alcohols, then you will get thermodynamic enolates, and when you are using aprotic solvents, then you will get kinetic enolate. And from thermodynamic enolates you will get thermodynamic product, and from kinetic enolate you will get kinetic product. And when you are using LDA, then you will get this kinetic enolate. Using these few things, we can determine that what type of enolate will form, and some different type of and different reagents will give you different type of enolates, which we will discuss later. That suppose silyl, if you are using trimethyl silyl chloride, it will give you preferentially thermodynamic enolates, and if you are using LDA, it will give you kinetic enolates. If you are using boron, then boron compounds, then you will get thermodynamic enolates. So we will see that how we can form different type of enolates in later examples. So these specific enolate means if you want to synthesize a particular type of compound, suppose I want to synthesize this compound only, right? From this unsymmetrical ketone, I want to synthesize only this compound, that I want alkylation should be done at this carbon, right? So I have to use certain reagents which will give me thermodynamic enolate, and from that reagents I will get this product. This is my requirement, that I want this type of enolate, right? So this is called your specific enolate, and we will see different conditions, nearly 7 or 8 conditions you will see that how we can synthesize a specific type of enolate. So first is, suppose you have presence of stabilizing group in conjugation of enolate. What is the meaning of this? Means when you are generating a enolate, suppose this is my enolate, and if R is a stabilizing group means it is electron withdrawing in nature. Most of the time it is true for electron withdrawing groups. So it is stabilized by conjugation, right? So that is why these groups are called stabilizing groups. And we can have different type of stabilizing groups. These stabilizing groups can be your cyano, nitro, carbonyl, and even phenyl or alkenyl, right? So these groups can stabilize your double bond, or you can say your enolate. So in this case, I have phenyl ring here. So I have a choice that I can form enolate from this carbon or I can form from this carbon. Means if I remove a proton from this carbon, I will get a double bond here after removal of proton. And if I want to remove a proton from this carbon, then I have to shift this and I will get a double bond here, right? But I have to look at the group attached here, that if I have a stabilizing group at this carbon, I have to preferentially remove this proton so that this enolate will get more stabilization as compared to enolate formed at this carbon. So in this case, I will preferentially have this enolate form rather than this one. So when I will do its methylation, then I will get a product like this. Or from this enolate, I can have a product like this. But in this particular example, this product is 100% and I will not get this type of alkylation. But for other cases, you can have a small amount of this product also. But major product will be on which your enolate will be stabilized by a particular type of group. Second possibility is if I can attach an activating group to this, any of these carbons. Suppose I am using first a base, so this base can remove this proton or it can remove this one, right? Any of these two. So you will get first I enolate like this. Then I am using diethyl carbonate, so it will attack on this carbon, and when it will come back, this group will be removed. So what I will get this ester group attached here. Now this carbon is more active, or you can say that the hydrogen attached here is more active as compared to this one, because it is in between two carbonyl groups, so it is more acidic as compared to any of these two. So if next time again I am using a base, so I will have to generate an enolate from this carbon only, and I will get a enolate like this. Next I am using a methyl iodide, so methyl group will attached here. And next I am using a acid and I am heating it. So acid means this ester group will be converted into carboxylic acid, and when I will heat it, the CO2 will be removed. We will get methylation on this carbon only, right? So we can use this type of reactions only to get methylation at particular carbon. Then third is if we can block undesired alpha carbon. For example, in this case we have two types of proton here, one at this ring junction and second one at this, right? So if I want to do methylation, suppose it at this carbon, so I have to block this carbon. So means if I am using this tertiary butoxide in presence of this butanol, so this tertiary butoxide is a bulkier base, so it will preferentially remove proton from the less hindered carbon, right? So it will give me a enolate like this, and when I will do its methylation, I will get methyl group attached at this carbon. But I want to do methylation at this carbon only, so this reaction will not work for me. I have to block this carbon, otherwise it will participate in reaction. So suppose I am using a base and this formyl ester, so this base will preferentially first form a enolate like this, and then I am using a thiol in presence of this TSOH, so I will get this CHO group attached here, then it will form, right? So if I am using this TSOH, then this tosylate group will attach here, then this BUS minus, this thiolate will attack on this carbon, and this tosylate group will be removed. So I will get this group attached like this. So this carbon is blocked now, right? So if I am using next time the same base, this tertiary butoxide have to remove this proton only, right? Because there is no proton available here, it has to remove this proton only, right? So it will form a enolate like this, and if I am using this methyl iodide, this methyl group will attach here, and this group can be removed using this KOH. So we will get this as final compound, right? So in this way, if I am blocking a more active hydrogen, then I can do alkylation at a desired alpha carbon atom. Then fourth is reaction of dianion formed from 1,3 dicarbonyl system. So we have seen in Claydon book summary that how we can synthesize dianions from 1,3 dicarbonyl system, and what is the important point about dianion reaction. So if you remember that I have told you there that in case of dianion, the anion which is formed last will react first, right? So this part is not given in Caritas. So I would suggest you that first you have to complete your summary on Claydon book, because in Claydon the things are given in more detailed way, and if you have fully understood the Claydon book, then you can come to Caritas to do mechanism, right? So it is given that we have 1,3-dicarbonyl system and we are using a base here. So this base will first remove this proton, so we have to synthesize our enolate like this, right? Now we are using 2 equivalents of this base. So second possibility is, if I can remove this proton, so I will get a second enolate formed at this carbon. So second enolate means second dianion, right? So this dianion, this carbon will react first as compared to this one, right? And we are using here a alkyl halide, so we will get this group attached here, right? So only remember this point, it is very important thing, that anion which is formed last in case of dianion will react first. One more example based on same concept that, so in this case again we have a dicarbonyl system. First I am using this base NaH, so it will remove this proton and it will form a enolate like this. Then in second step I am using one more base. This time we are not using 2 equivalents of same base, we are using 2 different bases, and the use of 2 different base denotes that we have 2 different type of acidic protons here, right? Their acidity is different, so we can use different strengths of bases of different strengths also. So this time this base, this butyl lithium, will remove proton from this carbon and we will get an enolate like this, right? And here we are using a different type of alkyl halide. So the anion which is formed last in case of dianion will react first, right? So this whole group will attach on this carbon, right? Then fifth is the use of silyl enol ether. So in this case we are generating a particular type of a specific enolate. We want to attach alkyl group at this carbon only, that is why we are using dicarbonyl compound, right? In later reactions we can remove these groups and we can have only a single ketonic group only. The fifth is the use of silyl enol ether. So when we are using silyl enol ether, or you can say that if I am using trimethyl silyl chloride, then it will give me enolate from more substituted carbon, means it will give me thermodynamic type of enolate. It will preferentially form this type of enolate. At the same time, if I am using LDA and then I am using trimethyl silyl chloride, so this LDA will first form enolate from less hindered carbon. Lithium enolates are less stable as compared to silyl enol ethers. Then I am using this trimethyl silyl chloride, so I will get this type of enolate. So we have under two conditions, we have 2 different silyl enol ethers using the same reactant, because we are using 2 different reagents. In this case we are using trimethyl silyl chloride, so I will get thermodynamic enolate only. But if I am using first LDA, then it will give me kinetic enolate, and then I can convert it into silyl enol ether. So in this case this will be your major product, and in this case this is your major product. The next is alkylation of silyl enol ether. So in the starting of video I have told you that the good alkylation substrates are 1 degree and 2 degree alkyl halides, and we cannot use easily tertiary alkyl halide for this purpose. But when you are using silyl enol ether, these type of alkyl halides can be used, but we need Lewis acid for this purpose, right? Then you can easily do their alkylation. This group will attach here like this. Then second point is silyl enol ether from acyclic ester. This is very important point. So acyclic ester can give 2 type of geometrical isomers, right? So when I am using LDA in THF only, and then trimethyl chloride, it will preferentially give me E-enolate. The ratio of E is to Z is nearly 85 is to 15. But when I am using HMPA also, hexamethyl phosphoramide, then it will give me preferentially Z-enolate. So this point is very important. You have to remember this one because in later chapters this will be useful. The next important point about silyl enol ether is we can also do 1,4-hydrosilylation of alpha beta unsaturated ketones using this triethylsilyl hydride. In presence of some rhodium salts, it can act as a catalyst. Then I will get a regio-specific product in this case. So this H will attack, this hydride will attack on this carbon. This bond will shift here and it will preferentially give trans-decalon type product. So this reaction is regio-specific in nature. Then sixth possibility is if I am using alpha beta unsaturated carbonyls with lithium in liquid ammonia. So we are using two different type of reactions here. That in this case I have trans-decalon and here I have a alpha beta unsaturated carbonyl. Here I have one more double bond at this in between these two carbons. So we will see that how we can do specific alkylation using alpha beta unsaturated carbonyl. So first I am using this tertiary butoxide in presence of tertiary butanol, right? So I have to write down the chair form structure of this trans-decalon. So this is a bulkier base, right? So it will try to remove a proton from this carbon, right? So you will get a enolate like this. This structure is not like this. This bond is little bit straight, but you can understand by this way that you will get this type of enolate here. Then I am using a alkyl halide. So if you remember that I have told you in Claydon book that when you have hydrogen at this carbon you have only proton, then the attacking side of your alkyl group is only axial. It will attack only axially, right? But if you have R group here, then you will get equatorial attack. In case of proton, you will get axial attack, while in case of R at this position, or you can say that R dash at this position, you will get equatorial attack of alkyl group, right? So because we have only proton here, so this R will attack from the axial side, means you will get this group attached at axial position. And if you write down it in planar form or in cyclic form, then at this carbon you have this alkyl group attached here and this is your proton, right? So at 1,3 position we have axial group, means they will be cis to each other. So this bond will also come above the plane. So this point is very important to determine the stereochemistry of alkylation. Then we are using this alpha beta unsaturated carbonyl. So I will write down it in chair form. So in presence of lithium in ammonia, it will form enolate like this, because lithium in liquid ammonia provide me electrons. That is why I am showing this type of bond movement. First I will get a radical here, then this radical will take down from solvent and then it will form negative charge here. So again the same rule will be applied, that when I have proton attached here, the attacking side of R is from the axial side, right? Axial attack. So you have to look at the group attached here first. So when I have R attached here, so when I will write down it in cyclic form, so we have axial group at 1-2 positions, means they should be trans to each other. So if this is below the plane, then this group will come above the plane. So this will be my final product, right? So using lithium in liquid ammonia, I can do selective alkylation at this carbon only, because if I am using only this strong base and alkylating agent, then it will preferentially do alkylation at this carbon. But I don't want alkylation at this carbon, I want only at this specific carbon. So I can use lithium in liquid ammonia, then I can use alkylating agent. But I have to use first alpha beta unsaturated carbonyl. If I am using simple carbonyl, then this reaction is not possible in the way that I want. The next and seventh type of way to form a specific alkylation, to do a specific alkylation, is reaction of alpha beta unsaturated carbonyl with organocuprate. And we know that organocuprates are soft nucleophiles in nature. Soft nucleophiles means when you have alpha beta unsaturated carbon, so this carbon is your hard electrophile and this one your soft electrophile. And we know that according to hard soft acid base theory, soft nucleophile attacks on soft electrophilic center and hard nucleophile attacks on hard electrophilic center. So this time we have a soft nucleophile, so it will attack preferentially on soft electrophile, means at this carbon, right? So I will get an enolate like this after shifting of this bond. Then next time I am using methyl iodide, so this charge will come back and it will attack on this methyl group. So this methyl group will preferentially attack from the side which is less hindered, means I will get trans as major product. These two groups attach trans to each other. We will see one more example based on same reaction. If I will do this, if I will use this dimethyl cuprate, then this Me minus will attack on this carbon, right? I will get this enolate, then this charge will come back and this negative charge will attack on this selenium group. This Br will be removed. I will get this compound. Then I am using H2O2 in presence of this dichloromethane. First, this peroxide will convert this selenium into selenoxide and then it will show elimination reaction, beta elimination reaction. This bond will shift here and it will be removed and I will get this compound. This is my starting product, similar to my starting product, only I will get a methyl group attached here, right? So I can follow this pathway also to get a specific enolate. Then the last method is selective alkylation of enamines and metalloenamines. So first we should know how we can generate enamines. So I will simply tell you here. If you want to know in details, then you can see my video on Claydon-Bock summary, and there I have told you in detail that how we can generate enamines. I am telling you here in brief that you can use a ketone and you have to use secondary amine. You will get this intermediate, then there is shifting of proton, right? You will get this product, then this nitrogen will give its lone pair of electron and water will be removed, so I will get a enamine here. So in this case I am using a ketone and a secondary amine, that is, so it will give me preferentially. So first I will form enamine in this form only, right? Then you can then I will tell you that what type of enolate will be formed in major amount. So I have two protons here which can stabilize this nitrogen by shifting of this bond, right? I can use these two, but out of these, the proton which is removed from less hindered carbon will give me major product, right? So this is very important point. You have to remember this one, that in case of enamine you have to remove proton from the less hindered carbon. Then some more important point I will write here about enamine reaction. So suppose I have a enamine like this, right, and I am using simple alkyl halide, then there are two possibilities that this nitrogen will act as a nucleophile and it will directly attack on this alkyl group and it will attach with this. So I will get this one as final product. So instead of C alkylation, I will get N alkylation product, and this is what I don't desire, right? Second possibility is I will get this type of alkylation. So after hydrolysis, it will give me this one as final product, right? So there are two possibility. This is C alkylation and this one is your N alkylation. And if you are using simple alkyl halides like 1 and 2 degree alkyl halides, there are good chances that you will get N alkylation for alkyl halides. But if you are using benzyl or allyl halides, then you will get C alkylation, right? It means this benzyl or allyl halides are good substrates for enamine reaction. So this is very important point about this. Next is that this reaction is based on for alkylation of hydrazone. This is a hydrazone compound. Hydrazone means when you are using a carbonyl group and you are treating it with hydrazine, then you will get hydrazone, right? Like this. So in this case, this hydrazone, first I am using LDA. So this LDA will remove this proton only from the less centered side. Then I am doing this using this methyl iodide. So I will get methylation at this carbon. Now what is about the stereochemistry, the attachment side of this methyl group? So this is the important point about this. So whenever you have carbonyl derivatives, then you will have to do alkylation from the axial side. This point was also discussed in Claydon book summary, that suppose this methyl is equatorially placed, because this is the most stable structure, then I am using its alkylation. So the second methyl group will attack from the axial side only. So the important point or the tip point you can say here, that in case of cyclohexanone derivatives, axial attack is favorable. So you have to remember this point. Then you can easily find out its attachment side, that I have one methyl group equatorially placed and one methyl group is present at axial position. These are 1,3 position to each other, and 1,3 axial equatorial means they should be trans to each other. Means if one is above the plane, other one will go below the plane. Then I am using this NiO4, so this hydrazone group will be converted into carbonyl again. So I will get this point, this product. So the important point about this reaction is only that I have to remember that axial attack is favorable for cyclohexanone derivatives. So I will end this video here. In next video I will cover the more important points about this chapter. But first I want to suggest you that you have to understand Claydon book, right? You can use my Claydon book summary, or you can read the book yourself, then you can do Carruthers only, right? So thank you so much for watching.